My department cut my funding without warning, then won a $450,000 grant with my research. I got back to campus on a Thursday afternoon in late August. 3 months in Kentucky and West Virginia, recording interviews with former coal miners about their kids' schools, sleeping in motels that charged by the week, living off gas station coffee. My laptop was full of audio files. My dissertation was finally real. My office door was propped open. The desk was bare. My books were gone. The filing cabinet I'd shoved into the corner was missing. Someone had stacked 3 empty boxes against the wall. There was a yellow sticky note in the center of the desk. Funding reallocated. You're resourceful. You'll figure it out. LC. I read it twice. Then I turned it over like there might be more on the back. LC, Lorraine Caldwell, department chair. I left the boxes and walked straight to her office. Her door was half open. She was typing something on her laptop, a coffee mug next to her keyboard that said, "World's Best Mentor." "Dr. Caldwell." She looked up. "Jordan, you're back. My funding's gone." "Right, yes, budget cuts. I sent an email in July." I was in the field. I didn't have reliable internet. She nodded like that explained everything. "It's unfortunate timing. The department had to make some tough decisions." "What decisions?" "We're prioritizing first and second year students. You're ABD. You're in the writing phase. It made sense to reallocate resources to students who still need coursework support." "I still need support. I'm writing a dissertation." "Of course, and you'll do great. You're one of our most resourceful students." I stood there holding my phone with the sticky note photo still on the screen. "When did you decide this?" "Early July. The dean's office gave us new enrollment targets and we had to adjust." "You didn't call me." "I sent an email." "One email, in July, while I was doing research for a project you approved." She closed her laptop halfway. "Jordan, I understand you're frustrated, but this is part of academic life. Funding is always precarious. You knew that when you started the program." "Who got my funding?" She opened her laptop again. "That's not really relevant." "Who got it?" "We brought in 3 excellent students this fall. They're all very promising." "You gave it to incoming students." "We invested in the program's future. That's what departments do." I looked at her calendar on the wall behind her. There were Post-it notes covering the next 2 weeks, color-coded. Her time was full. "I need to meet with you. I'm starting to write." "Of course. Let me look at my schedule." She clicked through something on her screen. "I'm pretty booked this semester. I took on 3 advisees and I'm teaching 2 seminars. Can you send me a scheduling request for October?" "October? Or late September if something opens up." "That's 6 weeks. It's a busy semester." There was a knock on the door frame. A student I didn't recognize stood there with a notebook. Young, probably first year. "Professor Caldwell, you said to stop by at 3? Caldwell smiled. "Meredith, yes, come in. We're just finishing up." She looked at me. "Send me that request, Jordan. We'll find time." I walked out. Meredith walked in. Caldwell asked her how her first week was going. I went to the financial aid office. The woman behind the counter pulled up my account and confirmed it. Assistantship terminated August 15th. No stipend. No tuition waiver. My health insurance would lapse September 30th unless I paid $1,700 for student coverage. I asked if there was emergency funding. She said I could apply, but the committee didn't meet until mid-October. I asked if I could defer. She said deferring meant pausing my program, which meant losing my student status, which meant my visa clock would reset if I ever came back. Rent was due September 1st. I had $43 in my checking account and a credit card that was already close to maxed. I sat in my car in the parking garage and opened my banking app, checked my balance again like it might have changed. Then I opened my email and scrolled back to July. There it was, July 9th, subject line, funding update. "Dear Jordan, due to budgetary constraints, the department will be unable to continue your assistantship for the upcoming academic year. We appreciate your contributions and wish you the best as you complete your dissertation. Please let me know if you have questions. Best, Lorraine." Sent at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. No phone call, no meeting, no warning. I looked at the sticky note on my passenger seat. "You're resourceful." I had 170 hours of interviews on my hard drive, 4 years of coursework, 200 pages of notes. A dissertation proposal Caldwell had called groundbreaking 6 months ago. I had 18 months of writing ahead of me and 2 weeks before I couldn't pay rent. I emailed all 4 committee members that night. Professor Brennan responded first. "Jordan, I'm sorry to hear about the funding situation. Unfortunately, I don't have any RA positions available this semester. I'll keep you in mind if something opens up." Professor Kim's auto reply said she was on sabbatical until January. Professor Martinez didn't respond at all. Caldwell sent 3 lines. "I understand this is difficult. I recommend reaching out to career services about non-academic opportunities. Sometimes a break from the program can provide valuable perspective." I read that last sentence 5 times. A break from the program. I wasn't asking for a break. I was asking for help finishing what I'd started. I opened a new tab and searched for adjunct positions. 3 colleges within 40 minutes had openings. I applied to all of them and kept searching. By midnight, I'd submitted applications to 7 schools. 2 days later, I got a call from Northern State. 3 sections of introductory composition, $800 per course, no benefits. Classes started in a week. I said yes. The department secretary called the next afternoon. Riverside Community College needed someone for 2 sections of developmental writing, 700 per course. I said yes. A third school emailed on Friday, 1 section of critical thinking, 750. I did the math. 2,400 a month before taxes if all 6 courses filled. Rent was 1,100. Car payment was 280. Insurance, phone, utilities. I'd have maybe 300 left for food and gas. I said yes. Monday morning, I drove to Northern State for orientation. The adjunct coordinator handed me a folder with syllabi templates and a parking pass that only worked in the overflow lot a half-mile from the building. She told me office hours would be in a shared workspace in the library basement, because adjuncts didn't get offices. My first class was 40 students in a room designed for 30. Half of them were on their phones. I taught subject-verb agreement for 50 minutes and assigned an essay on a topic I'd have to grade by Thursday. I drove to Riverside for my second class, taught fragments and run-ons, assigned another essay, got back to my apartment at 9:30, made instant ramen, opened my dissertation notes, stared at the screen for an hour without writing anything. I taught 6 classes that week across 3 campuses, graded 60 essays, slept 4 hours a night because I was trying to write after teaching and couldn't focus after grading. My dissertation advisor still hadn't responded to my meeting request. On Thursday, I stopped by the department between classes. The secretary was sorting mail at the front desk. Hey, Jordan, how's it going? Busy. Is Dr. Caldwell in? She's in a meeting with her research team. They're in there every Thursday now. Her research team? The new students. Meredith, Connor, and Priya. They've got that big collaborative project on education policy in the Rust Belt. She smiled. It's really exciting. They're getting a lot of support. I felt something cold settle in my chest. That's my project. Oh, well, similar topic, I guess, but they're looking at it from a different angle. What angle? I don't know the details, but Caldwell got them set up with dedicated office space in the annex. They've got a whole research suite now. They have offices? Yeah, and full funding packages, stipends, benefits, conference travel. The department's really investing in them. I stood there holding a stack of ungraded essays. The department cut my funding because of budget constraints. She looked uncomfortable. I just handled the administrative side. I don't make those decisions. Where are the offices? The annex, 2nd floor. I walked over. The annex was the newer building where senior faculty had their offices. 2nd floor had windows and carpet that wasn't stained. There were 3 doors with fresh nameplates. Meredith, Connor Walsh, Priya Desai. All of them had graduate research fellow printed underneath. The door to the research suite was open. I looked inside. 3 desks with new computers, a conference table, bookshelves that weren't particle board, a coffee maker. Caldwell was standing at the whiteboard with a dry erase marker, mapping out a timeline. The 3 students were taking notes. She saw me. Jordan, hi, can I help you? Can we talk? I'm in the middle of a meeting. It'll take 2 minutes. She glanced at her students, then stepped into the hallway and closed the door halfway. What's up? You told me there were budget cuts. There were. You gave them my project. We're working on education policy in post-industrial regions. That's a broad area. There's room for multiple projects. I spent 3 months in the field. You approved my proposal. And you'll write a great dissertation. But the department needed to make strategic investments in collaborative research. That's where the funding priorities are now. You could have told me that before I left. The decision came together quickly. These things happen. You replaced me. She lowered her voice. Jordan, I didn't replace you. I took on new students because that's my job. You're ABD. You're supposed to be working independently now. That's what this stage is. I asked for a meeting. You said October. And I'll meet with you then. But I have other responsibilities. I can't drop everything because your funding situation changed. Meredith opened the door. Professor Caldwell? Should we keep going? Yes, I'll be right there. She looked at me. Send me your latest chapter when you have something. I'll read it when I can. She went back inside and closed the door. I walked back to my car and sat there with the engine off. The folder from Northern State was on my passenger seat. Inside was a memo about adjunct policies. No paid sick leave. No retirement contributions. Contracts renewed semester by semester with no guarantee. I checked my bank account. $900 left. I opened the Graduate Student Union website and filled out a contact form. 2 days later, I got a response. Unfortunately, assistantships are considered discretionary funding. The department has sole authority over allocation decisions. There's no grievance process for funding termination. I read it twice, then I closed my laptop. The next morning, I taught 3 classes, graded 40 essays in a Panera between campuses because they had free Wi-Fi, and found half a muffin someone had left on a table. I ate it in my car. That night, Caldwell posted on Twitter, photo of her research team standing in front of a campus sign. Caption, excited to kick off this year's collaborative project with these brilliant minds. Meredith, Connor, and Priya were all smiling. Caldwell had her arm around Meredith's shoulders. I turned off my phone. I kept going to department events. I told myself someone would notice, someone would ask how I was managing, someone would acknowledge that something wrong had happened. The fall colloquium was in the main seminar room. Caldwell's research team was presenting preliminary findings from their first round of interviews. I sat in the back and listened to Connor describe patterns they were finding in school board meeting transcripts. I'd coded those transcripts. I'd sat in those meetings. I'd done that work. When the Q&A started, I raised my hand. Caldwell looked past me and called on Professor Brennan instead. After the presentation, I walked up to the refreshments table. Brennan was pouring coffee. I stood next to him and grabbed a cookie. Good presentation, I said. Very promising work. He stirred cream into his cup. I spent last summer doing similar interviews in 3 districts. He picked up his coffee and moved toward the door. Professor Martinez was talking to Priya near the window. I walked over. Jordan, Martinez said. How's the dissertation coming? Slowly. I'm teaching 6 sections right now. 6? That's ambitious. It's rent. She glanced at Priya. Well, you've always been hardworking. I'm sure you'll manage. Priya excused herself and walked away. Martinez followed. I stood there holding a cookie I wasn't hungry enough to eat. Caldwell was near the door talking to the department chair, Professor Whitmore. I walked toward them. Caldwell saw me coming and said something quiet to Whitmore, then moved into the hallway. Whitmore stayed. He was tall, gray-haired, wore expensive sweaters. He'd been chair for 12 years. Jordan, good to see you. Can I talk to you about my funding situation? Let's step outside. We walked into the hallway. He leaned against the wall with his arms crossed. What's going on? The department cut my assistantship with no warning. I'm adjuncting at 3 schools to cover rent. I can't make progress on my dissertation because I'm teaching 18 hours a week and grading for 120 students. I understand that's difficult. Dr. Caldwell took on 3 new students and gave them full funding packages. She gave them my research project. Funding decisions are made based on departmental priorities. We have to invest in projects with the most potential for external support and collaborative output. I had a project, I did the fieldwork. And you'll finish it. But Jordan, if I'm being honest, I'm not sure you're cut out for academic life if you can't handle a little adversity. He said it gently, like he was doing me a favor. This profession is competitive. It requires resilience, the ability to adapt when circumstances change. This isn't adversity, this is abandonment. That's a strong word. The department gave you 4 years of support. We provided training and mentorship. Now you're in the independent research phase. That's how PhD programs work. You left a sticky note on my desk that said I'd figure it out. And you did. You found teaching positions, you're supporting yourself. That shows resourcefulness. I'm drowning. Then maybe you need to ask yourself if this is the right path for you. He straightened up. Because frankly, coming to department events and complaining about funding decisions makes you look unprofessional. It makes other students uncomfortable. It reflects poorly on you. My throat tightened. I'm not complaining, I'm asking for help. And I'm giving you advice. Either commit to finishing or don't. But don't make your personal struggles everyone else's problem. He glanced at his watch. I have a meeting. Think about what I said. He walked back into the seminar room. I left. I sat in my car with my hands shaking and drove to Riverside for office hours. 2 weeks later, I was in the department office dropping off paperwork for a library extension. The secretary was on the phone. I heard her say, "Yes, Jordan's doing adjunct work now. Personal choice, I think. Wanted more teaching experience." I waited until she hung up. That's not true. What? I didn't choose this. My funding was cut. Oh, I must have misunderstood. That's what Dr. Caldwell said in the faculty meeting. Caldwell said I chose this? She looked uncomfortable. I think so. I wasn't taking notes, but she said something about you wanting to focus on teaching for a while. I walked upstairs to Caldwell's office. Her door was open. She was typing. I knocked. Can we talk? She looked up. I have 15 minutes before my graduate seminar. You told people I chose to adjunct. I said you were exploring teaching opportunities. I'm adjuncting because you cut my funding. Jordan, I didn't cut anything. The department made a budget decision. I've explained this. And now you're telling people it was my choice. I'm trying to help you save face. Do you want everyone to know you couldn't secure funding? That's not a good narrative for your career. It's not a narrative, it's what happened. And the way you talk about it makes it sound like you're entitled to support. That's not how this works. She closed her laptop. You need to stop bringing this up in professional settings. It's inappropriate. It makes people uncomfortable. You took my project. I took on new students with a related research interest. That's my job. You're using my data. I'm using data collected under a university research protocol that I'm the PI for. You contributed to that project as a research assistant. That's how collaborative research works. You didn't ask. I don't need to ask, and frankly, you should be grateful I included you in the acknowledgments. A lot of advisors wouldn't. You're applying for grants with my work. I'm applying for grants to fund research in my area of expertise. If you want to be a co-investigator, you need to be in a position to contribute. Right now, you're barely making progress on your own dissertation. She stood up and grabbed her bag. I have to go. Send me a chapter when you have something worth reading. She walked past me and down the hall. I stood in her doorway. Meredith walked by with a stack of books from the library. She didn't make eye contact. I went to the graduate student lounge. 2 other students were there. They stopped talking when I walked in. Hey, I said. Hey, one of them said. They both picked up their bags and left. I sat down on the couch and stared at the bulletin board. Someone had posted a flyer for a writing retreat, fully funded. Applications due next month. For students with active assistantships only. That night I taught at Northern State. Halfway through the lecture, I felt my chest tighten. The room got smaller. I couldn't breathe right. I kept teaching, but my voice sounded far away. A student raised her hand. Are you okay? I'm fine. I wasn't fine. I grabbed the desk. Take 10 minutes. I walked into the hallway and sat on the floor with my back against the wall. I counted breaths. 4 in, 4 out. A janitor walked by and asked if I needed help. I said no. I went back in and finished the class. I stopped eating breakfast. Then lunch. I ate whatever students left behind in classrooms. Half sandwiches, bags of chips. I told myself I wasn't hungry. I lost 15 pounds in 6 weeks. I taught. I graded. I drove between campuses. I slept 4 hours a night and woke up tired. Caldwell posted another photo on Twitter. Her research team at a conference. Caption, proud of these emerging scholars. I closed the app and opened my dissertation file, stared at the cursor. I had 17 pages. I needed 200. I closed the laptop and drove to my next class. I sent Caldwell 3 chapters in October. She said she'd read them within 2 weeks. 4 weeks later, I emailed asking for feedback. She replied, swamped with grant deadlines, will get to it when I can. 6 weeks, I emailed again. Jordan, I understand you're eager for feedback, but I'm managing multiple projects and advising 6 students. I'll read your work when I have time. 8 weeks. I asked if we could meet to discuss a timeline. I can't commit to a timeline right now, and frankly, this defensive attitude isn't helping anyone. You need to be patient. I needed to schedule my defense. I needed to graduate. I needed to stop paying student fees while working 3 jobs. The university charged full tuition for dissertation status, $2,000 per semester to remain enrolled while Caldwell was too busy to read my work. I called the graduate school. They said I couldn't schedule a defense without my advisor's approval. I couldn't take a leave of absence without risking my visa status and health insurance. I couldn't do anything except wait. I waited. In November, the department newsletter arrived in my inbox. The subject line was, "Congratulations to Dr. Caldwell's research team." I opened it. There was a photo of Caldwell with Connor, Meredith, and the 3rd student whose name I still didn't know. They were holding an oversized check. The headline read, "Department wins $450K Spencer Foundation grant for education policy research." The article described the project, multi-year study examining school board decision-making processes. Mixed methods approach combining interview data with discourse analysis of meeting transcripts. Novel framework for understanding how policy gets shaped at the district level. I'd developed that framework. I'd spent 14 months building the interview protocol. I'd coded the first round of transcripts and identified the patterns that became the theoretical foundation. My name appeared nowhere. The article quoted Caldwell, "This research builds on years of groundwork in understanding local education governance. I'm grateful to work with such a talented team of emerging scholars who bring fresh perspectives to these critical questions." Years of groundwork, my groundwork. I closed my laptop and taught my afternoon class at Riverside. A student asked a question about curriculum standards. I answered. My voice sounded normal. I had no idea what I'd just said. That night, I was in my office at Northern State grading papers. A student knocked during office hours. Sophomore, struggling with the midterm essay. I pulled up her draft and started reading. The argument was unclear. The evidence didn't support her claims. I needed to explain how to revise it. I opened my mouth, nothing came out. I tried again. My throat closed up. The student looked concerned. "Professor?" I put my head down on the desk. "Are you okay?" I wasn't okay. I started crying. In front of a student. During office hours. In a tiny adjunct office that smelled like old coffee. "I'm sorry," I managed. "I'm sorry." "It's okay." She sounded scared. "Do you need me to get someone?" "No, I'm fine. I couldn't finish the sentence. She sat there quietly. After a minute, she said, "My mom has panic attacks sometimes. She says it helps to breathe slowly." I breathed slowly. 4 counts in, 4 counts out. "I'm really sorry," I said. "That was unprofessional." "It's okay. Everyone has bad days." I wiped my face with my sleeve. "Let's look at your essay." We spent 20 minutes revising her argument. She left. I sat there staring at the wall. Another student came in. Junior. Wanted to discuss his final project. "I was thinking about curriculum design," he said. "Like how textbooks get developed. My mom works in ed tech and she's always complaining about how disconnected products are from actual teaching." "That's a good topic." "She works for Meridian Learning. They make adaptive learning platforms. She says they're always looking for people who understand how curriculum actually works in classrooms." He paused. "I could introduce you if you want. I know you're finishing your PhD. She might know about jobs." It was the first time in 6 months anyone had offered to help me. "That would be great," I said. He gave me her email. I wrote to her that night. She responded the next morning. "Connor mentioned you. Would love to chat about curriculum consulting. Are you free for a call this week?" We talked on Thursday. She explained what Meridian did. They built digital learning platforms for K-12 schools. They needed people who understood pedagogy and could review lesson plans for alignment with standards. It's contract work. 10 to 15 hours a week, pays $40 an hour. Interested? I was making $12 an hour adjuncting after you factored in prep time and grading. Very interested. Great. I'll send you a sample unit to review. If it goes well, we'll set up ongoing work. The first project took 8 hours. I reviewed a 5th grade math unit, checked alignment with state standards, flagged places where the scaffolding didn't match student needs. They paid me $320. I made that in a week of adjuncting. They paid me for 1 evening of work. The second project came 2 weeks later, the third a week after that. By December, I was reviewing curriculum every weekend. By January, they were sending me 2 projects a week. It was the first time in a year I could pay rent without calculating which bills to delay. In February, I got an email from Whitmore. Jordan, it has come to my attention that you are engaging in outside employment while enrolled as a full-time doctoral student. University policy requires all graduate students to receive prior approval from their department chair before accepting external work. This is particularly important for students in academic programs, as outside employment can create conflicts of interest and compromise your ability to make satisfactory progress toward your degree. Please schedule a meeting with me at your earliest convenience to discuss this matter and complete the necessary approval forms. Best, Professor Whitmore. I read it twice. I wasn't receiving funding. I wasn't using university resources. I was paying them $2,000 a semester to stay enrolled while my advisor refused to read my dissertation. I wrote back, Professor Whitmore, I'm happy to meet, but I want to clarify that I'm not receiving any funding or support from the department. I'm enrolled in dissertation status only. The university policy you're referencing applies to students with assistantships or fellowships. That's not my situation. Best, Jordan. He responded within an hour. The policy applies to all enrolled students regardless of funding status. Outside employment that interferes with your academic obligations is a violation of your student agreement. We need to discuss this immediately. I called a lawyer, found one who did free consultations for students. She listened to everything, the funding cut, the consulting work, Whitmore's email. Do you have a signed contract with the university? I signed enrollment paperwork every semester. Does it specify restrictions on outside work? I don't know. Find it. But based on what you're telling me, if you're not receiving funding and you're paying full tuition, they have no claim on your time. The policy they're citing applies to funded students because the university is compensating them. You're a paying customer. Can I tell them that? You can, and I'd recommend you do it in writing. Establish clear boundaries now. I wrote to Whitmore that afternoon. Attached the relevant policy language. Explained that I was not a funded student and was under no obligation to seek approval for outside work. Copied the graduate school dean. Whitmore didn't respond for 3 days. When he did, the tone had changed. Thank you for clarifying your funding status. I've consulted with the dean's office and confirmed that the approval requirement does not apply in your situation. However, I want to remind you that your primary obligation is to complete your degree in a timely manner. Please keep me updated on your progress. No apology. No acknowledgement that he'd tried to control work I had every right to do. Caldwell emailed me the next week. Jordan, I wanted to touch base about your timeline. I know you've been busy with teaching commitments. Let's plan to meet next month to discuss your remaining chapters. The tone was professional, distant, like we'd never had a relationship beyond formal advising. I didn't respond. I didn't respond to Caldwell's email about meeting next month. 3 days later, Meridian's director of curriculum called me. We've been impressed with your work. We'd like to talk about bringing you on full-time. Full-time? We're expanding our middle school humanities offerings. We need someone to lead curriculum development. You'd manage a team, oversee alignment across grade levels, work directly with pilot schools. Salary starts at $72,000. Benefits, PTO, the full package. I was making $26,000 a year adjuncting, paying $2,000 per semester in student fees, sleeping 4 hours a night. Can I think about it? Of course, take a week. I sat in my car in the Northern State parking lot. A week to decide whether to finish a dissertation my advisor wouldn't read or take a job that would pay my rent. I drove home and pulled up my dissertation files. 308 pages, 4 years of work, 2 more chapters to write, a defense to schedule, if Caldwell ever agreed to read it. I opened a new document and started calculating. If I kept adjuncting and Caldwell read my final chapters within 2 months and I scheduled a defense for May, I could graduate by summer. That was 6 more months of teaching 3 classes, grading papers until midnight, eating vending machine dinners, and hoping my car didn't break down because I couldn't afford the repair. If she didn't read them within 2 months, I'd pay another $2,000 in fall tuition, and another in spring, and I'd keep adjuncting because I couldn't afford to stop. I closed my laptop. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about the 14 months I spent building that interview protocol, the framework Caldwell put her name on, the sticky note that said I'd figure it out. At 4 in the morning, I got up and wrote an email to Meridian. I'd love to accept the position. Then I wrote to the graduate school. I am formally withdrawing from the doctoral program effective immediately. Then I wrote to Caldwell. I've accepted a position outside academia and am withdrawing from the program. Thank you for your time. I hit send on all 3 before I could change my mind. Caldwell responded 6 hours later. It's unfortunate you couldn't handle the rigor of academic work. Best of luck in your future endeavors. I read it twice, then I deleted it. I started at Meridian 3 weeks later. They gave me an office with a window, a desk that wasn't covered in someone else's papers, a computer that didn't take 5 minutes to boot up. My first project was reviewing a 6th grade social studies unit. I pulled it up and started reading. The lesson on civil rights movements was missing context about local organizing. The primary sources were too advanced for the reading level. The assessment asked students to memorize dates instead of analyzing change over time. I rewrote it, added scaffolding, found age-appropriate sources, designed an assessment that asked students to compare movements across different time periods. My manager reviewed it. This is exactly what we need. Can you do this for the entire 7th grade curriculum? I did. Within 2 months, I was reviewing everything the humanities team produced. Within 4 months, they moved me to lead curriculum developer. Within 6 months, I was hiring my own team. I hired teachers who'd left the classroom because they couldn't survive on $40,000 a year, doctoral students who were adjuncting at 3 schools, people who knew what it meant to design lessons for students who didn't have internet at home or quiet places to study. We built curriculum for schools that couldn't afford textbooks. We designed offline versions for districts with limited technology. We created materials in Spanish and Mandarin and Vietnamese. The things the department treated as impractical, understanding how people actually learn, designing accessible materials, translating research into practice, were exactly what schools needed. A year after I started, my platform was in 400 schools. 18 months later, 2,000. By the end of year 2, we'd reached 2 million students. The company promoted me to Director of Educational Content. Salary jumped to $95,000, then $110,000, then $130,000. I paid off my credit cards. I paid off my car. I moved into an apartment with a bedroom and a kitchen that wasn't also my office. I slept through the night for the first time in 3 years. My doctor asked if I wanted to stay on the anxiety medication. I said yes. She referred me to a therapist. The therapist's name was Dr. Patel. I told her about the funding cut, the sticky note, the grant with my research and someone else's name. That's exploitation, she said. I just wasn't resilient enough. No, that's what they told you so you'd blame yourself instead of them. We met every week. She gave me words for what happened. Institutional betrayal, gaslighting, power differential, extractive labor. You didn't fail, she said. They failed you, and then they made you believe it was your fault. But I left, I didn't finish. You survived. That's not the same as quitting. I started sleeping better. The panic attacks stopped. I could eat in the morning without feeling sick. I built a team of 15. We launched high school curriculum. We started working with rural districts that had never had access to quality digital materials. A superintendent in Oklahoma wrote to me, "Your curriculum is the first thing we've used that actually works for our students. Thank you." A teacher in Mississippi sent a video of her students discussing a lesson I'd designed. They were engaged. They were asking questions. They were learning. It was the work I'd wanted to do when I started the PhD, except I was actually doing it. And people were actually benefiting. I made more than Caldwell, more than Whitmore, more than everyone on my dissertation committee combined. 3 years passed, then 4, then 5. Nobody from the department contacted me. Not Caldwell, not Whitmore, not the graduate students I used to study with. No one checked in to see if I was okay. No one asked what I was doing. No one acknowledged that I'd existed. The silence was clarifying. I'd mattered when I was useful, when I was coding their transcripts and teaching their classes and making their grant applications stronger. The moment I stopped being useful, I stopped existing. Year 6, year 7, still nothing. I built scholarship programs for first-generation students. I mentored teachers who wanted to transition into EdTech. I spoke at conferences about designing curriculum for under-resourced schools. I didn't think about the department. I didn't check their website. I didn't wonder what Caldwell was doing. Then EdWeek called. They were running a series on alternative career paths for doctoral students. Would I be interested in an interview? I said yes. The interview published on a Tuesday morning. From abandoned PhD to education technology leader, one scholar's path. I talked about the funding cut, the adjuncting. The moment I realized I could either finish a degree no one cared about or build a career that actually helped students. The article went viral. 10,000 shares in 2 days. 20,000 by the end of the week. My inbox filled with messages from graduate students. Thank you for saying this. I thought I was the only one. This is exactly what happened to me. Then a different kind of message arrived. The subject line was, "Wonderful to see your success." The sender was Caldwell. I opened Caldwell's email. "Jordan, I just read your EdWeek interview. What a wonderful piece. I'm so proud to see how far you've come. You always had such a creative approach to education. I could tell from our early conversations that you do great things. It's been a joy watching your career develop. I'd love to catch up sometime. Let me know when you're free for coffee." I stared at the screen. She'd written our early conversations like we'd had a mentorship, like she hadn't stopped returning my emails, like there was no sticky note, no funding cut, no grant with my research and her name. I scrolled down. Whitmore had sent a message an hour later. "Jordan, congratulations on your success at Meridian. The department is incredibly proud of you. We'd love to discuss ways you might give back to the program now that you're established. Have you considered endowing a graduate fellowship? Or perhaps joining our alumni advisory board? Let's schedule a call." I closed my laptop and walked to Dr. Patel's office. "They contacted you," she said. "Both of them. Same day the article went viral." "What did they say?" I pulled up the emails on my phone. She read them carefully. 7 years of silence, she said. "Then the moment you're publicly successful, they appear asking for money and claiming credit for your achievements. Caldwell said she's proud of me. Where was that pride when you were sleeping 4 hours a night teaching 3 classes? Where was it when you withdrew from the program? I didn't answer. They ignored you when you needed support. Now they want you when you're useful again. That's the same pattern, just a different kind of extraction. What do I do? What do you want to do? I want to tell them to leave me alone. Then tell them that. I drafted a response that night, deleted it, drafted another one, deleted that too. Finally, I wrote, "Thank you for reaching out. I'm not interested in reconnecting or contributing financially to the department. Best wishes." I sent it to both of them. Caldwell responded within an hour. "I understand you're busy. The offer stands if you ever change your mind." Whitmore took 2 days. "We respect your decision. However, if you'd be willing to visit campus and speak with current graduate students about career paths, that would be valuable. No donation necessary, just your time and expertise." Dr. Patel and I talked through it. "If you want to do this for the students, do it, but make your boundaries crystal clear in writing first." I wrote back to Whitmore, "I'm willing to speak with students once about institutional accountability and alternative careers. I will not be donating to the department. I will not be recruiting for the program. My talk will address funding structures and advisor responsibilities. If that works for you, I'm available in November." His response came back enthusiastic. "Perfect. We'll schedule it for November 14th. Looking forward to having you back on campus." The department newsletter arrived in my inbox 3 days later. I almost deleted it, then saw my name in the subject line. Alumni Spotlight, Jordan's Success in Education Technology. I opened it. There was my photo pulled from the Meridian website, a full feature describing my career trajectory. Jordan, who completed doctoral coursework in our program, now leads curriculum development at Meridian Education Technology, one of the fastest-growing platforms in K-12 education. Jordan's training in qualitative research methods and educational equity, core components of our doctoral curriculum, laid the foundation for this impressive career. We're proud to count Jordan among our program's success stories. They'd framed leaving as completing coursework. They'd claimed my work was built on their training. They'd turned abandonment into a success story that made them look good. I forwarded it to Dr. Patel, then to my company's legal team. The lawyer called me an hour later. "Did you give them permission to use your name and photo?" "No." "Did you complete this doctoral program?" I withdrew before finishing. "So they're misrepresenting your credentials and affiliation?" "Yes. We can send a cease and desist." "Not yet. I'm speaking there next month. I want to handle that first." November 14th arrived cold and gray. I drove to campus and parked in the same lot where I used to eat lunch in my car between classes. The talk was scheduled for a seminar room in the education building. 30 students showed up. Caldwell and Whitmore sat in the back row. 2 other faculty members I didn't recognize joined them. I stood at the front and started talking. "I'm here because some of you are living what I lived. You're adjuncting at multiple schools to cover rent. You're paying student fees every semester to stay enrolled while your advisor doesn't respond to emails. You're teaching classes for $2,000 while faculty members publish research built on your labor. You think it's your fault. You think you're not working hard enough or smart enough or resilient enough. I'm here to tell you it's not your fault. It's the system. And the system is designed to make you blame yourself." I told them about the funding cut, the sticky note, the grant application with Caldwell's name, the 3 years adjuncting. The moment I realized I could either finish a dissertation no one would read or build a career that actually helped students. I left because staying would have destroyed me. That's not failure. That's survival. And if you're in that position now, there's no shame in choosing yourself over a degree. Several students were crying. One raised her hand. "How did you know when it was time to leave?" "When I spent more time trying to figure out how to afford groceries than thinking about my research. When my advisor stopped pretending to care. When I realized the people who were supposed to mentor me saw me as free labor, not a person." Another student spoke up. "But don't you regret not finishing?" "I regret trusting people who didn't deserve it. I don't regret leaving." Caldwell's face was frozen. Whitmore stared at his phone. After the talk, 8 students stayed to ask questions. A few asked for my contact information. One asked if Meridian was hiring. Caldwell approached as I was packing my bag. "That was quite honest. You asked me to talk about career paths. I did. Some of what you said was uncharitable to the program. Some of what the program did was unconscionable." She left without responding. I drove home and didn't think about it again until the emails started. Caldwell first. "I know our talk was difficult, but I wonder if you'd be open to helping us recruit strong candidates for next year's cohort. Your perspective would be valuable." Then, the development office. "We're launching a fund to support graduate student research. Even a small donation would make a difference. Would you consider contributing?" Then the department website. A student sent me a screenshot. Under affiliated faculty and researchers, my name appeared with my title at Meridian and a note. "Dr. Jordan, ABD, consults with the department on curriculum design and career pathways." I'd never consulted with them. I wasn't ABD anymore. I'd withdrawn. I forwarded everything to my lawyer. She drafted a formal letter. It went to Whitmore, the department, and the university's legal office. It stated that I had no affiliation with the department, had not given permission for my name or image to be used in promotional materials, and requested immediate removal of all unauthorized content. The website updated within 24 hours. My name disappeared. But the alumni magazine came out 2 weeks later. My photo was on page 12. Success stories, where our graduates go. The feature claimed I'd completed my doctoral training in the program and that my success started here with the strong methodological foundation and commitment to educational equity we instill in all our students. I posted a correction on social media. I did not graduate from this program. I withdrew after funding was cut without warning, and my advisor stopped responding to emails. I built my career despite the program, not because of it. Any claims that my work is connected to this department are false. It got shared 4,000 times in 2 days. The department removed the magazine feature from their website. No apology, just gone. Whitmore sent another email. Jordan, I understand you're upset, but I hope you'll reconsider the fellowship endowment. It would really help students who are facing the challenges you faced. I didn't respond. Brennan, the department chair, emailed next. I'd love to introduce you to our associate dean. Meridian's work aligns well with some research initiatives we're developing. Perhaps a partnership. Then the department secretary. Hi, Jordan. We have a current student who's struggling with funding issues. Would you be willing to mentor her informally? Just occasional emails. I documented everything. I saved every message. I forwarded them all to my lawyer. She sent a second letter. This one was shorter. It stated that continued attempts to contact me or use my name for departmental purposes would result in legal action. It CC'd the university president. The email stopped. The silence felt like the first honest thing the department had offered in 8 years. 2 months later, I got an email from a graduate student I didn't know. The subject line was Student Organized Event. Hi, Jordan. I'm writing on behalf of a graduate student advocacy group that's independent from the department. We're hosting an event about institutional accountability and graduate student rights. We've read your Ed Week interview and your social media posts. Would you be willing to speak? This is not affiliated with the department or university administration. We're meeting at the campus coffee shop, not in a department space. No faculty will be invited. We just want students to hear from someone who survived. I wrote back, I'll be there. The event happened on a Wednesday evening. 23 students showed up. No faculty, no administrators. I talked for 90 minutes. I explained institutional betrayal. I described the difference between mentorship and exploitation. I told them that building a career on your own terms meant refusing to wait for institutions to value your work. They'll take credit for your success the moment it's useful to them, I said. They'll ignore you when you struggle and show up when you thrive. Your job is to decide what you owe them. My answer is nothing. A student asked if I'd ever go back. To what? The department that cut my funding? The advisor who said I couldn't handle rigor? The chair who left a sticky note instead of a conversation? There's nothing there for me. But don't you want them to acknowledge what they did? They won't. Acknowledgement requires accountability. They're not capable of that. I stayed until the coffee shop closed. Students asked about transitioning out of academia, about ed tech jobs, about how to know when it was time to leave. I answered every question. I drove home and wrote an essay for Inside Higher Ed. I titled it, Academic Opportunism, When Departments Claim Success They Didn't Earn. I described the pattern without naming the university. Funding cuts with no warning, advisors who disappear, departments that ghost struggling students and reappear when those students become successful, institutions that frame survival as endorsement. The essay published 3 weeks later. It was shared 11,000 times. My inbox filled with messages from graduate students across the country saying, "This happened to me, and thank you for writing this." I didn't donate to the department. Instead, I established a scholarship fund for students at community colleges and under-resourced high schools. The kids who'd never get a shot at that doctoral program anyway, the ones the university system overlooked. I put $50,000 into the fund the first year, then 75, then 100. I funded 20 scholarships, then 30, then 50. The glossy alumni magazine arrived at my office 6 months later. My photo was on the cover. Giving Back, How Our Alumni Are Changing Education. The feature inside described my scholarship fund and framed it as an extension of the department's commitment to educational equity. It quoted Whitmore saying, "Jordan's success reflects the values we instill in our doctoral students." My lawyer sent a third letter. This one went to the university president, the provost, and the board of trustees. It included documentation of every boundary violation, every unauthorized use of my name, every false claim of affiliation. The university issued a public correction. They removed the magazine from circulation. They sent a formal apology. I donated the amount Whitmore had requested for the fellowship, $25,000, to a graduate student advocacy organization that fought for better funding structures and advisor accountability. I never went back to campus after that student event. I never responded to another email from faculty. I built a career defined not by Caldwell's mentorship or Whitmore's sticky note, but by the decision to survive and the choice to make sure others didn't have to figure it out alone the way I did. The department never contacted me again. The silence continued. It was the most honest relationship we'd ever had.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and drop your favorite part in the comments. See you in the next one.